Morning, everybody. Thank you, Dean, for that overly generous introduction. It's great to be back in Kingston again on this beautiful campus where I fell in love with so many years ago, 40 years ago, actually. President Dooley, Dean Zawawi, distinguished faculty, members of the URI staff, including the great Dave LaValle and Joanna Esposito, my new BFF, Professor Kendall Moore, is here. And I want to say congratulations to all the graduates perched on the launch pad to great things. I'm a trained observer, so I was watching just now when the dean introduced me, and I got this vibe from you, and correct me if I'm wrong here. I picked up something like this. You're sitting there and you're thinking, let's see, the commencement speaker somewhere else is Oprah or Ellen or Tom Hanks or Jennifer Lawrence, Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, and we get this random newspaper guy from Boston. I feel your pain, but here's what I can promise you. Maybe I don't bring 15,000 watts of celebrity candle power, but I intend to make up with it with something even better, the kind of beautiful bliss that comes with brevity. Let's see if I can stick to that. I want to just acknowledge my personal cheering section this morning, my beautiful wife, Joni, my partner for the last 32 years, my two sons, Adam and Brendan, my daughter, Colleen, is out there in cyberspace somewhere looking in, I think, and my brother, Joe, is here. So So if you're looking for cues on when to applaud or when a standing ovation, just look down here and they'll lead you. Thanks, Joe. When Provost DeHaze called me and asked me if I would give this speech, I was so dumbfounded and perhaps a little bit too hydrated, because I was in Key West at the time, that I immediately accepted. And then I did what I suspect most first-time commencement speakers do. I headed straight for Google. That was a big mistake, because here's the guidance you get from the internet intelligentsia. Actually, here's a good one. Be funny, be brief, be seated. You're advised to be profound and fully recognize the import of this milestone moment, or to be whimsical, or philosophical, or clever. And whatever you do, avoid commencement speech cliches. No one wants to hear that this is the beginning and not the end. Don't tell the graduates that this is their big day, or that the future belongs to them. And apparently, this is the commencement speaker's first commandment. Whatever you do, do not tell the graduates how humble and proud you are. So let's get this over with. I'm humble and proud. And here's why. I'm humble because I've done what any good newspaper reporter would do. I spent some time learning about you. And here's what I've learned. Everywhere you look this morning, there is a great story. I spent some time in Washington before I got to the Globe. And in those days, the Washington Post ran a great feature that was based on this premise. Give 3 reporters a hammer and a nail, and give them the District of Columbia telephone book. You know telephone book, it's like your iPhone contacts list on steroids. Anyway, you have them drive a nail into the telephone book, and wherever the tip of the nail lands, go find that person and write about them. And what that produced were wonderfully written vignettes of everyday people with powerful stories about lives of achievement or despair or courage, about love and jaw-dropping generosity. I could do the same with you. Look around, because in the next seat or the next row, there are great stories too. Stories like this. Seated here with us today is a single mom who juggled statistics analysis and first-grade homework help. She got her degree and got her child to school on time, and she always remembered to make sure he got there with his packed lunch. Or the woman whose grandmother in Martinique was unable to finish high school but lived long enough to see her granddaughter earn a degree this morning in fluid dynamics. Her mom has come here from Paris this morning to cheer her success. Or the young woman who will receive her master's in speech language pathology this morning. And boy, did she earn it. She was able to afford grad school in part by camping out in the summer at nearby campsites where she weathered thunderstorms and somehow managed to show up every morning a polished and an engaged professional. or the stories of all the military veterans in caps and gowns this morning, including an environmental science and management student, a lifelong Rhode Islander, who has served our country in multiple deployments in the Middle East. He earned his degree in part by writing his major paper in a desert tent in a place far from home. When you're in the presence of greatness like that, humility comes naturally. Here's why I'm proud. I'm proud because I'm a product of URI. I learned the fundamentals of my profession right here on this campus from professors and instructors who believed me were no cookie-cutter drones. They were true characters. They bled journalism. To me, they were giants. In my mind's eye, they are painted in Technicolor. Let me tell you about two of them. Jack Thompson was a former newspaper reporter who brought a wit and a zeal into his classroom that I have never forgotten. In 1976, Jack took a bunch of us up to New Hampshire to cover the New Hampshire primary. And on that trip, Jack underlined for me what I've always loved about him. Yes, journalists carry a serious responsibility. You must be fair, you must be fast. It's absolutely imperative that you get your facts straight. But here's what he also taught me. Journalism is so much fun, and boy, was he right. I've had a blast. And sometimes journalism can be poignant and powerful. A few years ago, I followed a young woman who at the age of 6 had been diagnosed with a brain tumor through her first year at Harvard. I chronicled the post-war life of veterans who were together in a Bradley fighting vehicle outside the Baghdad airport early one morning when a roadside bomb exploded, killing their friend, a young man from New Hampshire named Jeremy Rainier. An incredible story which underlined the lessons of war and the enormous human toll that it exacts. I've covered the death of a princess in presidential press conferences. I've covered criminals and con men and charlatans. I've worked with a great team of reporters on the Globe Spotlight team to help uncover what has been called the most important story in the history of the Boston Globe, the betrayal by Catholic priests. They had sexually abused their young victims who had given them unquestioning trust. I'm talking here about hard-fought, tough investigative journalism, stories that you have to claw out of the earth with your fingernails. Not a sentence of it was fake news. Thank you, Joe. It's been important work. I'm proud of it, but Jack was right. It's been a lot of fun. When I was studying my craft, I had the privilege of learning from a guy who was a legend on this campus. His name was Wilbur Doctor. That's right, Doctor. But there was nothing whimsical about Wilbur. Until he retired in 1983, he struck fear into the hearts of journalism students like me. Wilbur had worked for the Newport Daily News and then at the Providence Journal, where he earned a reputation as someone who could turn fragmented facts into prose that was lyrical and sweet. There was nothing lyrical and sweet about Wilbur Doctor, though. He was gruff. He did not suffer fools gladly. I once brought him a piece I was especially proud of. It was a profile of a friend of mine, John Murphy, a 6'8" forward at the University of Massachusetts with a sweet jump shot and an even sweeter disposition. I gave the piece to Wilbur. I sat there, I watched him read it. Silence. He read some more. Silence. Finally, with hope and pathetic desperation in my voice, I achingly asked, "Isn't it good, Wilbur?" He looked up at me, his brow furrowed, and without a trace of pity, he said, "No, it isn't." Wilbur made you want to do better, and that's what I've tried to do. He also taught me to learn from my mistakes. It was advice that would come in handy a couple years later when I was working for my hometown newspaper. I was the news editor in that tiny newsroom. One winter's day, I think it was 1979, my boss was out sick with a bad back, and I was putting together the front page that day, and I used a large photo, 5 columns wide, depicting a beautiful wintry snow scene behind the local high school. I thought it looked beautiful. A pristine, snow-frosted field. Turns out I did not look closely enough. If I had, I would have seen what was very clearly there in the lower right-hand corner of that photo. It was a two-word obscenity that someone had stamped out in that frosty field. The second word was you. The first one rhymed with duck. I called my boss and I said, Bill, we've got a big problem on page 1 today. There was a pause and I explained the problem, and then Bill said, Tom, this is not good. But let me tell you something. The paper is going to come out tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. Learn from this and you'll be okay. I'll never forget that. I had messed up and his message to me was, we all make mistakes. Don't repeat them. Get better. Move on. That's not a bad message for all of us today. If you're the person delivering the bad news like I was then, you'll be fortunate and always grateful to find a person like Bill on the other end of the line. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard a word I've said so far, if you've been mentally rearranging your sock drawer or wondering whether to get the lobster bisque or the clam chowder at lunch, I'd like to ask for your undivided attention. I'm about to deliver this speech's most important line. 3 words that have thrilled the hearts of commencement audiences down through the generations. They are words that have been known to make grown women swoon and strong men weep. Ready? And in conclusion, I worked a long time on that, thank you. We've arrived at the point in the speech where the Internet Handbook suggests that you make your major point, underline your big message. One suggestion is to go out and change the world. Go out and change the world? Perhaps some of you will do that. I'm sure there are some Bill Gateses and Hillary Clintons in the audience here. But most of us will take smaller bites, bites that are just as important. Change your neighborhood, change your school, change your city council, change your house of worship, change your daycare center, your local library, your senior citizen center, or your local parks and recs department. Light a fire and watch it spread. Whatever you do, don't stand on the sidewalk and watch the protest or the passing parade. Get in there and march. I want to thank you for honoring me today by inviting me back to the university that I love, the university that has shaped who I am. I wish you an afternoon of hugs and handshakes and high fives. I wish you nothing but blue skies and bright horizons. Congratulations and go Rams.